this song, Peace of Mind, was by the Magnificent Men. That the next day, after they sung this at the Uptown, they put this on WHAT radio and blew Philadelphia away. Became #1 overnight by white boys in an all-black station. Everybody was under the impression they were black. If you weren't at the Uptown, you would have sworn they were black. Well, listen, shock. They were like this. There's nothing gonna harm me. Let me tell you about the Freedom Shows. The Freedom Shows were in 1966, and they were not at the Uptown. They were at the old convention hall. Now, my dear buddy was an old public basketball player named Irv Staggs. And Irv Staggs got the #1, he was called Mr. Philadelphia. He was the first man all public basketball in the Philadelphia Public League. But I was fortunate because I was the only white boy that was on the all-opponent team in a newspaper called the Philadelphia Tribune. I was the only white face in the paper. But then again, they all knew me. I mean, everybody knew me, and I felt very, very comfortable in the African-American community because I was accepted. I loved the culture, and Clarence Brookins, the great player from Temple, his mom and dad brought me in as part of it. So I felt very comfortable. Very, 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 very comfortable. Matter of fact, I felt more comfortable there than I did in a lot of other situations. So I was actually called up on stage at that Freedom Show to get an award to be the opponent team for the Philadelphia Tribune. Now here's the deal. Reverend Ike was the guest speaker. He didn't talk about black power, he talked about green power. Green power meant money overrides white power and black power. It was green power. But I saw something on that stage at the Freedom Shows that I'll never forget, ever. And that was Mavis and Papa Staple. And the Staple Singers, I've never seen. They were an absolute phenom. They did Respect Yourself. Na, na, na. They were great, and they did a lot of gospel songs. Plus, they had the Five Blind Boys of Alabama, the Dixie Hummingbirds, and I enjoyed the gospel shows very, 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 very. But the Freedom Shows were there for Reverend Ike at the old convention hall, and it was pretty crowded. And I was brought up on stage and got my award, so I felt really good. It didn't until two people took that baton and ran with it. #1 was Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions when he did Amen. Remember Amen? He took it and he did some black power songs. James Brown sung "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." Yeah. So they made me a little bit uncomfortable, I have to admit. It wasn't until that point made me a slight bit uncomfortable because I was now I kind of felt a little uneasy because I don't know how to explain it to you, but I didn't feel uncomfortable up until Curtis Mayfield's, and James Brown's. That very black thing made me a tad bit uncomfortable. But I understood it. Don't get me wrong, I understood exactly what it was. Yeah. But you can understand being the only white guy sitting in the crowd when Curtis Mayfield's saying amen, and if it's true, my brother, you can, no matter what you call it. I felt a little bit uncomfortable. But it wasn't up until that point that I just started feeling a little different. Up until that point I didn't knew I was a white guy. Right. Then I knew I was a white guy. I went to the Howard in D.C., never got to the Apollo. The Apollo was in New York, never got there. That's in Harlem. For a white boy in those days, that was a little bit too much. I was very comfortable at the Uptown, felt like a family man, but I didn't know anybody in New York. I went to the Howard to see Gene Chandler. Gene Chandler used to knock me out. Now, interestingly enough, all the times that I saw Gene Chandler, I'd never seen him sing the Duke of Earl. You know why? That was a white man's song. That was white man's pop 40. His song was God Bless My Love, God Bless Our Love, and Rainbow 65. He was very cognizant of, when you're at the Uptown, you're not going to do white top 40. You're going to do your thing at the Uptown. And that's what Gene Chandler did. I never seen him sing. I never saw him sing the Duke of Earl. Never saw him sing it. When I went to the Howard, it was there to see a show. When I went to the Uptown, I was part of a family. I went to the Uptown because that's where I belong. Yeah, that's where I belong. You see, if I'm Jewish, soul music is Hava Nagila. If I'm Irish, soul music is Danny Boy. Oh, Danny Boy, right? If I'm Polish, I'm sure there's soul music for Polish folks. Soul music in the black community was the music that was their fiber. But it was my fiber, because what happened was, if I lived in an Irish community, I'd love Danny Boy and I'd be doing the Irish jig, right? Right? But I was a white basketball player in a black man's world. I felt very comfortable because I didn't understand the Beatles. The Beatles to me wasn't soul music. To me, Beatles was music. The Beatles were a music explosion. I didn't feel any akin to that music because it didn't ring home with me. You know, remember, my friends, a lot of them were black folks. My girlfriends were black folks. I played basketball in the hood. You know, I mean, I spent most of my time in the hood. You know, and I felt very comfortable there. But soul music is it's an inner thing. Like I said, Danny Boy's soul music to Irish folks, right? Hava Nagila's soul music to Jewish folks, right? And Smokey Robinson is soul music to black folks. Stevie Wonder is soul music to black folks. But I understood the music because there's something that I could do that most white people couldn't do. Dance. I could do two things. I could dance, and this white boy could jump. So that got me in, that was my key into that culture. They knew me. I was part of the woodwork.